We'll take you a little bit back to the first story where His Excellency Paul Kagame opened the Corporate Council of Africa Leaders Forum this Tuesday. And on the same topic, I am joined by Ms. Florizelle Liser, the President and CEO of the Corporate Council Africa from Washington, to further discuss this forum. Good evening, Ms. Florizelle.
Good evening to you. Thank you for your patience with the technology.
Thank you so much for speaking to us and joining us. Well,
thanks for having me.
Give us a brief overview of the aim of the CAA Leaders Forum that started today and what the CAA is doing in engaging African leaders as well as enhancing economic and commercial relationships between Africa and the US post-COVID-19.
Well, first, let me just say that I was so honored that we could have President Kagame to open up our Leaders Forum. You know, each year, for many years, Corporate Council on Africa has been organizing a US-Africa Business Summit. Last year, we were in Maputo, Mozambique, and we were honored to have a number of African heads of state and CEOs from across Africa and the United States as well. And we were looking forward to hosting this year's US-Africa Business Summit in Morocco.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be there a few weeks ago. And we thought this is an important time for US and African government and private sector leaders to come together to talk about how we can recover from both the health and the economic impact of COVID-19.
Absolutely.
And so we thought of this Leaders Forum, and we said that each day for 4 days, we would have leaders such as President Kagame. We have 3 other African heads of state who will be joining us throughout the rest of this week to come and speak about key issues of being resilient and how the private sector and government could work together in terms of the recovery that is definitely needed on the continent.
Absolutely. Ms. Florizelle, COVID-19 has somewhat revealed what you would call fragilities or deficiencies in the value chains and global trading system. What will the future of trade and investment look like? Will it still be key, especially trade between Africa and the rest of the world post-COVID-19, and what opportunities does this present?
Well, you know, they say out of lemons, you should always seek to make some lemonade. And I actually think that this particular pandemic coming when it did, at a time when the African continent has been developing the largest free trade area in the world, barriers are being torn down across East Africa and across the entire continent. As a matter of fact, Rwanda was one of the first countries to ratify the African Continental Free Trade Area. And we have known for a long time, including the years under the African Growth and Opportunity Act program that the United States has provided so Africans could ship their value-added products to the US, that it also very much depended on Africa being able to be competitive in regional and global value chains. So what I think will happen as a result of COVID is 2 things. One, I think that buyers of products, whatever those products are, will see that you don't want to be reliant and dependent on only a few economies, that makes you vulnerable. And so having diversity in your supply chains is a good thing. Number 2, Africa is a place where they can now invest in value-added production and link together different countries who can provide products, the final product. So just as an example, if Rwanda were producing mirrors for automobiles, shipping those mirrors to South Africa and to Morocco, who are exporting the final products, then Rwanda would also be benefiting from the global automobile value chain. And
Yes.
it's that kind of trade that I think we will now start to see more of. It will be intra-African, but it will also be Africa being able to supply competitively products to the rest of the world. And we hope a lot of those products will come to the US market.
Oh, great. Maybe briefly, what's the role of multilateral agencies, some of which are on the panel today actually, and the private sector in the balancing of interests on the global economic space, especially for Africa, based on what the CAA has been doing before?
Yes, well, we were very pleased that we could hold this high-level panel that included leaders from some major institutions, but we were honored that we could host one of the 4 AU special envoys that have been appointed to help carry the message to the rest of the world, including the United States, that Africa needs partners right now to work with them in terms of debt, to work with them in terms of addressing COVID-19, to work with them in terms of addressing meeting needs in the value chain for different products. And we had one of the envoys with us. We also had representatives of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, the head of that organization. So we had Dr. Kabaruka, we had Dr. Sangwe, Vera Sangwe, we had the major economist of the World Bank, Dr. Albert Zufak, and we had the head of the Trade and Development Bank, Dr. Edmasu Tedesque. And we were very pleased that what they brought to the discussion was the critical role that they as institutions on the continent play, but also making the point that cooperation and collaboration with the rest of the world is needed. COVID-19 has not been exclusive to any borders. All countries in the world are impacted by this. And so all of the world needs to come together to work collaboratively and to work smartly. And the last thing I would say is that it also talked about the fact that Africa is resilient. Africa was one of the regions of the world with the highest growth rates that we see all around the world. And until a few months ago when COVID-19 came in, most of Africa on average was expecting about 5% increase in GDP. Now we're seeing a loss in GDP. So it's critical that we come together and work with our African partners so that they can recover from COVID and gain back the very powerful position that they have as strong growers and as destinations for investment. And the U.S. is a major partner in that regard. Our agencies, our Prosper Africa program, and Power Africa, and other programs that we have the New Development Finance Corporation. All of these are platforms from the U.S. side, Exim Bank on our side. We're all looking as ways that we can support U.S. businesses in doing business on the continent and taking advantage of Africa's resilience.
Ms. Florizelle Liser, President and CEO of Corporate Council Africa, thank you so much for the privilege of your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Stay well.
Thank you.